You've just brought home that saxophone for the very first time and you can't wait to put it together and start playing. However, when you open up that case and see all those new materials inside, maybe you get a little bit confused about how it's all supposed to fit together. That's why I've created this video to hopefully help you learn how to put it together the right way and the easy way.
Now, putting the saxophone together is really not all that complicated. In fact, we can break down the whole process into a few simple steps. Step 1, put on your neck strap. Step 2, connect the neck strap to the body of the saxophone. Step 3, attach the neck to the body. Step 4, connect the mouthpiece to the neck. And step 5, put the reed on the mouthpiece and then secure it with the ligature. And that's it, 5 easy steps to assemble the entire saxophone. Although this process is pretty straightforward, it can be confusing, especially in the beginning. That's why I have tried to explain each of these steps in good detail so that you set your saxophone up the right way for the very first time. If you get confused at any point in this setup process, I highly encourage you just to pause the video and compare what you see in front of you to what you see on screen. You can also just rewind and watch little segments at a time if that helps too.
So, no more delay, let's get to putting that saxophone together so you can get playing. We're gonna go ahead and get all of our contents out of the case so that we can start learning some of the names of the pieces inside. As you do this, I highly recommend that you sit somewhere like a desk or a table with just a nice big flat surface to rest everything on. This is going to make it way easier to access all of the different parts of the saxophone, as well as just see what's inside your case and sort of take inventory for the very first time. Now, no matter what saxophone you have or what it looks like, you absolutely need the following materials to play your horn. These include the body, the neck, the mouthpiece, the ligature, the reed, and then your neck strap. Some other things that you might find in your case would maybe include cork grease. You might have a mouthpiece cap that looks something like this, or maybe it's plastic, and all this does is just fit over the mouthpiece like this. You might have some extra reeds rolling around, maybe in a plastic sleeve or maybe in a foil package like this. You might also find some cleaning supplies too, such as a swab or maybe a cleaning brush. There's lots of different cleaning accessories out there, and those really aren't necessary for the moment, so you can go ahead and put any cleaning stuff just back in the case. When you grab the body of the saxophone out of its case, make sure you grab with one hand by the bell first and then support on the other side with your other hand. The reason for this is that if you just grip it at the top or somewhere else on the saxophone without that support of the bell, you run the risk of bending a key and putting your saxophone out of alignment. That's not cheap or easy to fix. As you rest the body of the saxophone down on the table or your desk, the side that you want to rest it on is going to be the side with most of the rods and keys. So there's two sides of the saxophone, and sometimes it's a bit hard to tell which side is which and which side to lay that down upon. What you want to do is just avoid setting it down on this side of the horn where these side keys are sticking out. You don't ever want to put it down on the table like this, because when you put it down, you can smash these in a bad way that puts it, again, out of alignment. You want to avoid that. So the side that has the rods, the keys, and is more of the flat side, you're going to rest it down on the table just like that. And that's the safest way to put the body of the saxophone down. So the first thing that we're going to start with is our neck strap, and this is what mine looks like. Whatever yours looks like, you can go ahead and just throw it over your head and let it rest there for the rest of the time that we are assembling everything else together. Once your neck strap is good to go on your neck, we're gonna go ahead and start putting things together. We're gonna begin this process by starting with our reed. If your reed is just in a plastic sleeve like this, you're gonna go ahead and gently take it out, and just be careful of the tip of the reed, as this is the most fragile and the most important part. You don't wanna crack it or break it or shove it into anything that's going to damage it, because that's not gonna play for you, and you wanna take care of your reeds so they play well. As for the plastic sleeve, you actually want to keep this and set it to the side. We're going to store the reed in this later when we put the saxophone back in its case, so don't throw this away. If your reed is in a little foil package like this, you can go ahead and just tear that open, which you will probably find a reed in another plastic little sleeve like I was just talking about. And this case is a little bit different where I'm gonna slide it out in this way. This one I had to pull down from here. So no matter which direction that the reed's gonna come out, just be careful that you don't break the tip of the reed. Once you have the reed out of the plastic sleeve, you're gonna go ahead and put that in your mouth like this. And I want you to keep it in your mouth just for a little bit. The reason for this is that the reed needs a little bit of moisture to vibrate well, and if the reed doesn't vibrate, the saxophone doesn't make any sound. It might taste a little bit funny, but the more that you play the saxophone and play this reed in particular, that taste will go away. As for me, I'm just gonna go ahead and set this aside, even though if I was just assembling my saxophone together, I would have my reed in my mouth, but I can't talk and have the reed in my mouth at the same time, so I'm just gonna keep it off to the side for now. With your reed in your mouth, you're gonna grab your neck and your mouthpiece, and we're going to join these two pieces together like this. I'm gonna take one hand and cover the top of this octave mechanism, which is the one you see springing up and down like this, just so that I can twist this together with the mouthpiece. And I do say twist intentionally because as I am putting the mouthpiece and the neck together, I am using a gentle twisting motion like this. You never want to take your mouthpiece in your neck and just jam it on and rock it almost like you're breaking something in half, because that can bend the neck, you can ruin the cork, you can break your mouthpiece. You should never ever rock something on the saxophone. When you're putting it together, you should always use a gentle twisting motion. When you can easily twist on that mouthpiece on and off, we're just gonna leave it in the middle of the cork for now. We will probably adjust this at a later time. That deals with something called tuning, and we'll talk about that in a later video, but we don't want it pushed all the way to the back of the cork, and we don't want it riding all the way at the end either. The middle is the best place to start for now. The way that you will orient the neck and the mouthpiece looks like this. If I turn it like this, you're gonna see that I have a hole in the bottom of the neck and a hole in the bottom of the mouthpiece, and those are facing the same direction. I've seen some beginners accidentally put the mouthpiece upside down like this so that the flat part faces up, and that is the opposite of what we want. We want that flat part and the hole of the mouthpiece to be facing down like this. If you find that your mouthpiece is really not going on very easy, you have two options to help get it onto the cork a little bit easier. The first method is my preferred method, and that is using cork grease. Cork grease is exactly what it sounds like. It's grease for your cork so that the mouthpiece can fit on easier. There are different types of cork greases out there. The most common ones that I have seen are chapstick tubes like this, and then little dishes that I don't own. There's nothing wrong with the little dish types, but I just don't like them because you have to put your finger in the product and then apply that to the neck. And that's just a bit of a mess, and I don't like doing that, so I prefer these. So what you do is just apply a thin little coat, whatever type of cork grease you have, just like this. And then take your mouthpiece and see if that twists on any easier. The second option, if you don't have cork grease, is to just wet the cork with your mouth like this. It does work in a pinch, and you definitely don't want to be forcing your mouthpiece onto the neck. Once this is good to go, we're gonna take a look at the ligature, which slides over the mouthpiece like this. Now, it may seem like a simple thing just to put this ligature over the top, but it does go on a certain way, and I wanna talk about that because if you make a mistake here, that can make the reed sit on the mouthpiece a little bit funny, and if anything is misaligned in this part of the saxophone, it's just not going to sound or work the way that you want it to. So this is where we need to spend the time making sure that we get things right. So if your ligature looks like mine, you can go ahead and just slide it easy over the mouthpiece so that when you look at it, the screws are on the bottom and facing to the right. Now, if your ligature doesn't look like this, one thing that you can remember to help you put it on the right way is to match the shape, screws to the right. Match the shape, screws to the right. What I mean by this is that not all ligature screws are going to go on the bottom, like the one you saw there. Some of them, like this cloth one here, have one screw, and that goes on the top. And the reason that I know it goes on the top is because it matches the shape of the mouthpiece. If you hold the mouthpiece sideways and look at it from a side profile, you're gonna see that it has a slight conical shape, meaning that it's a little more narrow at the front and a little wider at the back. And the ligature is designed to accommodate that shape, meaning that it has a more narrow side and then a wider side. So all you need to do to make sure that your ligature fits on the right way is to find the widest part of this piece of equipment. If it's the most narrow side and you accidentally get it backwards, you'll quickly know because it's not gonna go on very easy, but that widest side is going to slide on better. As that ligature slides on, you shouldn't again put it too far back so that it like hangs over the edge like this, or hangs over the front edge like this. It should just fit nice and easy in the middle. So whatever ligature you have, once that is on right, you can actually just take that and slide it off, because I want to talk about the reed before we put everything together. So you're probably sick and tired of that reed being in your mouth at this point, so you can take that out. And what we're gonna do is practice putting it on the mouthpiece before we put the ligature over the top of it. As we look at the mouthpiece and the reed, you can probably see that they both have very similar shapes, and that is for a reason. What we're gonna do is take the flat part of the reed and match that with the flat part of the mouthpiece. So I'm just kind of using my thumbs here, and I'm gently placing that flat part of the reed on the flat table of the mouthpiece. And then I'm just making sure that everything is very even and aligned, especially the tip. The tip of the reed needs to be even with the tip of the mouthpiece. You don't want to scooch it too high up so that you can see the reed over the top of the mouthpiece. You also don't want to have it scooch so far down that it creates a gap in there. You want those tips to be even. You also want the rails, which are the sides of the reed, to be centered on the mouthpiece and to not be too far to the left or too far to the right. Again, just making sure that no edges are hanging over. So once you have your reed lined up with your mouthpiece and everything looks nice and even, we're gonna take our ligature from before and we're going to gently and easily go over the top and slide that on. Now, if your ligature is too tight, it's not fitting on super easy, you can pause and just unscrew a little bit, try to push it on a little more, pause, unscrew, push it on. It should go over pretty dang easy. You shouldn't be forcing anything on top of the mouthpiece like we've talked about before. Once we get that ligature to about the center of the mouthpiece so that it doesn't hang over any edges, we can look at the reed one more time and make sure that that tip didn't get bumped. If it did get bumped, just use your thumbs here on the side and kind of readjust it so that the tip stays even and that the sides of the reed stay even as well. So I'm good here. I can see that everything's even and my ligature is on in the center. I'm gonna use my hand and screw on the ligature so that it firmly hugs the mouthpiece, but it's not over tightened. It's not like gripping it with a death grip. You don't want to do that. You want to be gentle, like a firm hug on the mouthpiece here. One way of being sure that it is not on too loose is just to take your fingers here and twist it. And if that ligature moves as you're moving your mouthpiece on the cork a little bit, then it's on too loose. You can take those screws and just tighten it on just a touch. And boom, there we go. That looks really good. My reed is on nice and straight, my ligature is on the right way, my mouthpiece is on the cork about halfway. There we go. This is the hardest part of the process, and it's also the most crucial, so that's why I spent some time talking about it. So once everything is good to go here, we're gonna gently place this aside so that we don't like chip the reed or break the reed. Again, being careful, protecting the reed. And then we're gonna grab the body of the saxophone again and take a look at the top where we will put our neck. Some saxophones come with a end plug at the top here that we need to take out. So what we do is take the screw and loosen it, and then again, gently twist this out. So that's kind of a fancier end plug. Some end plugs that you might have in your case might be a simple plastic one like this. It would again just go at the top there. We just want to get rid of that. Then we can grab our neck assembly that we just finished up and gently, again, twist in the neck to the body. From here, I'm just gonna gently take this screw, and I really don't want to force this on like this because I've snapped these screws before, so I'm just gonna go easy so that it gets snug, that it can move a little bit, but it's not like super duper loosey-goosey. Let me unscrew it here and show you super loosey-goosey. That's just way too loose. So I'm gonna take that screw and just go on a firm hug there. And then what I'm gonna do is find my ring that is about the middle of the body here. This is where the neck strap hook is gonna go. And I'm just gonna slip that neck strap hook over that loop and maybe cinch it up a little bit. And once you have your neck strap locked into the saxophone, that is it. That is the final step, which, holy cow, that was a lot of work. I definitely get that, especially in the beginning. That's a lot of different things to think about for sure. But now we're ready to go. We're ready to play. And as long as everything is lined up like we talked about, your saxophone should be in great playing shape for your first couple of notes. And now that you have your saxophone all put together, make sure you check out my other videos explaining how to now play it. I'm gonna talk about things like embouchure and how to hold the horn and the first few notes. Also, if you have any questions or things you're confused about, I will do my best to answer anything that you want to put into the comments below. So other than that, thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video, and I hope that you enjoy making music. Bonus content, yeah! I want to stop for a quick second and talk about one detail that I think gets overlooked, especially in the beginning. That detail is to make sure that the top side of your case is always facing up. Now, I'm talking about this for a reason, and from experience. It's really easy to not pay attention to where your saxophone case is positioned when you open it and accidentally open it upside down, therefore spilling all of your contents on the floor. Obviously, that's not good. You can damage your equipment, and as you can probably guess, it's not cheap or easy to fix a damaged saxophone. So here's a couple tips to make sure that you know that your saxophone case is top side up. The first thing that we will look for is the logo on the top. A lot of cases, like my soprano case here, have a logo that refers to the top of the case. So if your case has a logo that's either in the corner or in the middle or somewhere else like that, that's a really good indicator that the top side is up. However, not every saxophone case has a logo on top, such as the one that I'm holding here. If I turn it around to the back side, which is what the top side used to look like, there is nothing indicating that it is the top side, which is why I put all these different magazine covers with some hodgepodge on, and it looks pretty cool, in my opinion. But before that, the thing that I had to do was look at the buckles. As you can see here on this case, the right way that the saxophone will open is going to have the buckles flipping upwards, which is my second tip. If your saxophone case has buckles, like mine, you can make sure that it is on the top side and the right side by flipping those buckles up. From what I've seen out in the world, most saxophone cases have buckles or a logo on top. But sometimes I've run into cases that don't have either of those things, like this goofy one. This is a zipper case that obviously doesn't have any buckles, and you have to unzip on the top. There's really nothing on the case here that defines what is the top and what is the bottom, except for one small thing, and that is the pocket on top. So if your saxophone case doesn't have buckles or a logo, sometimes they'll put a pocket on top, and that is a good way of showing you what is up as well. One last tip that I will offer to you if you don't have buckles or a logo and you have a zipper but it doesn't have a pouch and you just have no idea which way is up and which way is down, it can get kind of confusing actually, is just to look for the shape of the case itself. And what I mean by that is that on the case there's going to be a thin side and then a thick side. And I think this is pretty much true from any case that I have seen, with the top side being a little bit skinnier than the bottom side. So that's a good way too of just looking at it from the side profile and making sure that that is facing up.